This podcast has mature language, not intended for underage viewers.
Street cred sports. Street cred sports. I'm crossing over. I'm Euro stepping.
Hello, this is Keenan of Street Cred Sports Training, and welcome to another episode of Time to Ball. We are chugging along on episode 27. That's a lot. That's a lot of episodes. I'm hoping y'all enjoying it and that y'all tuning in and thinking sometimes like, man, I hope he's gonna have a better episode than last week. And so if the episodes aren't to your liking, if there's certain things that you like for me to discuss, reach out to me, and I'll put it in the mix. I hope everybody's doing well as usual. I'm doing well, getting ready for summer. I'm going to have a very busy summer, and I'm going to make sure that I still have time to do my podcast because it's important to me, and I'm hoping it's important to y'all. I know it's not like crack where y'all are fiending. Yo, man, I got to get that Time to Ball podcast, man. You need to put out like one every hour or something so I can get my fix. I'm not doing that. So if you fiending for it that much, man, let me know. I can help you get in the rehab or something. As much as I would love to know that y'all are feeling it like that, I do not have time to do an hour a podcast every hour. I don't like to hear myself talk that much. All right, so let me get into my things on my mind. Okay, so this first one, and if it applies to you, you need to do something about it. I got a question. Why do some people cross in front of a car so slow as if they own the sidewalk or the parking lot? Have you ever noticed that? Like, it's courtesy. You don't just keep rolling because you don't want to hit somebody. So I always want to stop. Now, I've seen some cars that, they know and they just kind of keep driving and make you stop. That's not right. But like whenever I'm going to cross and there's a vehicle coming, I always try to let that vehicle pass or I veer to the back so they don't have to stop. That's just me. I'm always trying to not infringe on someone else and keep things moving. Now, if they stop, I jog across or run across, try to make sure I don't fall because that wouldn't be funny. Well, it'd be funny to them, but not funny to me if I fell and roll across the road like a roly-poly or something like that. But I always try to make sure I don't take too much time. Now, am I talking about people who, have a disability or an elderly person, somebody who has to take their time? No, because you can tell when somebody's walking across if they might need a little bit more time. I'm talking about people who don't have any type of injuries that just walk slow. I mean, like real slow. Come on, man. I don't got all day to be waiting on you to scoot your butt across the road, whether it's across the street. And then some are they're real arrogant with how they cross. You actually could have the right of way, meaning they're, they could wait because you're already there, but they'll just start out, and just start walking. So I'm always curious why they walk so slow. And I know what my dad used to say. He used to tell people, "Hey, I got bumpers." He's like, "I got bumpers. You better speed your butt up." Walking across the road. And he did it once, and I remember the person kind of turned around and give him a look. But you know what? They hurried up and got their butt across the street. Now obviously, at least I don't think my old man was going bump him, but it always made me laugh thinking about that. Like, man, I got bumpers and you don't. You better hurry up and cross the street before I bump your butt over there. So, it's just one of those things, man. It's I don't even know how to put it into words. It's weird how some people just like they take all day, and you can tell that that they're gonna take all day trying to cross the street. So or a parking lot. Now it happens everywhere, whether you're you know, driving down the road. I see it more in parking lots, of stores and stuff, whether it's not convenience stores, whether it's grocery stores or malls and stuff. Yo, man, people be walking slow. So I'm just curious because I'm fortunately, not unfortunately, but fortunately, I haven't heard of anybody hitting them. And I understand that you want to have patience, and I do, but yo, man, y'all gotta scoot a little bit faster. Maybe if we start bunking and horns like, hey, let's move it, maybe people will snap out of it. But they walking around like straight up zombies. But, who am I to guess? I guess we'll maybe not have any accidents anywhere. So I'm not encouraging anybody to bump anybody, okay? I don't want to hear about, somebody calling me in the court suing Time the Ball because they heard me say, hey, I got bumpers, and then it started to roll down the street and bumping a pedestrian. We're not trying to have that over here. It'd be funny, but we're not trying to have that. All right, so next let me go into NBA playoffs. One thing I noticed, and again, okay, I didn't see every minute of every game, but what I did see, the one thing that I was head scratching to me was how the Lakers didn't treat Jamal Murray of the Denver Nuggets the way they treated Steph. I think that was a mistake, and ultimately it cost them. They ended up being, ousted in 4 games. And somebody says, okay, well, explain what you mean. Okay, so in certain coverages, they were extremely aggressive on Steph. A lot of times when they came off pick and roll, they doubled, right? They had larger, longer defenders on him. They were really physical with him. They picked him up. There were times where I think there were 3, possibly 4 people right there with him. Okay. Now, part of that goes to their inability, Golden State's inability to have other guys that made shots, right? Because you have to be able to spread, and if you know that you got 1 or 2 guys that can't shoot, then it allows those 1 or 2 guys, defenders, to kind of roam, right? Well, even though Denver, had much better shooting as far as other guys that could hit shots, I'm of the mind of, well, what are you going to take away? It didn't seem, and I wasn't in the coaches meeting, but my eye test watching, it didn't seem like the Lakers had a plan to try to take anything away. There was no, hey, we're going to take away Jamal Murray. We're going to take away Joker, right? Now, when I say take away, I don't mean that they're not going to score any points. I mean that you're going to put them in a position to where they're not going to get the number of shots up that they normally do. They're going to become more passers. Now, Joker passes, great. Jamal Murray can pass, great. But you can devise schemes to where, okay, we're going to make you make tough passes. We're not going to give you these certain, line drive passes that you tend to get. We're going to make you a passer, or we're going to make you a scorer. So you might score 40, 45, hell, maybe even 50 points. But we're going to make sure you're not getting extra rebounds. And we're going to make sure that you're not having any assists. So maybe these guys that were helping, they're going to stay at home and say, hey, you got a premier defender in Anthony Davis. Let him guard. Okay, we're going to put Schroeder, or we're going to put Vanderveer on Jamal Murray, and we're going to force Jamal Murray to make really tough shots. Okay. I didn't see any of that. I mean, I really didn't. Like I say, there were stretches, there were times, but it wasn't a steady enough diet to where, to me, it looked like Denver was going to have to make an adjustment. But when they played Golden State, they did. So when I say it's a mistake, I'm kind of like, to me, it kind of felt like they weren't respecting Jamal Murray in the sense like they respected Steph's shooting. Because when Steph would get, switches and stuff like on LeBron or AD and stuff like that, they crowded him. Steph had to make, series of moves to create that space. They just kind of had their hand up on Jamal. LeBron had his hand up on Jamal. AD had his hand up on Jamal. There was no, we're going to take this away from you and we're going to make you do something. So it was really interesting. And, could I break film down? Yeah. I could break the film down and just tell you what I saw. But that it was just, I just was like, why are they not playing him? Because I feel like, okay, let's say you're not aware that Jamal Murray, can score, right? Let's hypothetically say that. After game 1 or 2, you got to change how you play. Now, they made adjustments, but it wasn't the type of adjustments that, I felt they should. They weren't as aggressive with Jamal Murray. Now, he's 6'4". He's a bigger guy than Steph. But you put a 6'7", 6'8" defender like Vanderveer and, you force him to just be ultra aggressive on him with how he defended Steph. I just didn't see it. I could be wrong, but I didn't see it. But in any case, look, I do want to say that I learned. I think I saw enough to I could honestly say I like what I saw with Joker. It's not that I haven't liked him, but I've always been, like I've said before, I like to see the matchups, right? Like I mentioned once, Kyrie going against Steph. I remember back in the day when Jordan went against Clyde Drexler. Shaq against Hakeem, Shaq against Patrick Ewing against Hakeem. All of those things. When you have certain guys, you want to see, if they're the best, you want to see them go against each other on the offensive and defensive end. Anthony Davis bothered the Joker. He did. The Joker's production and how easily he was scoring started to taper down, I think, after game 2. I'm not saying he didn't score points. He still scored points. But Joker had to hit a lot of tough shots. Now, he's made those shots before, but Anthony Davis made him have to work, right? And then when Anthony Davis was aggressive, Joker had a hard time playing defense. But he stuck to it. He played as best he could, but he's not a defensive player, and I'm not saying he needs to be. I just want to see him do more than just stand around and roam, because he's not playing anybody. It's kind of like, yo, man, make him play defense. And to me, that's how you make somebody who's very good offensively. That's how you work them, is you work them on defense. You make them apart. Golden State did it all the time. They made him apart. Where, they're doing pick and rolls or they're doing this. They're making him move. So, yeah, it gets tiring if you're not used to playing on both ends at a high level. But, Joker made some moves going to the basket. And I really thought towards the end with AD guarding him, I really thought that, it really showed how badly he wanted it. Not to say he didn't want it before, but it was like he could taste it, and it was give me the ball, get out the way. So, I've never said I didn't like Joker, but I wanted to see how he played against AD. Now, having said all that, Anthony Davis is, he doesn't bring, to me, he doesn't bring it every night. He doesn't have that, nobody on the court can guard me mentality. I'm going to give you 30. He could probably score average 30 every night. He can handle the ball. Now, his passing isn't where Joker is, but his handles are probably better. I would say that I've seen, he not necessarily moves with the ball. I'm talking about handles like a guard, because Anthony Davis used to be a guard. But Anthony Davis doesn't bring it every night the way most people feel he should, and it's kind of frustrating. But I mean, it is what it is. At some point, you got to understand what that person is about and what that person is, So I don't foresee him becoming a dominant guy where he was at one stretch, where he brought it every night and he was the best player on the floor. I don't see him being like that, but I still feel like he can be really good. But we'll see. We'll see. It is frustrating sometimes with him, but we're just waiting to see what happened with Miami and Boston. Boston won last night. No team has ever come back from an 0-3 deficit, but I don't know. For some reason, I think this could be the first one where a team comes back. I mean, look, no, they're 0-149, I believe, is the stat. Now, there have been a couple of teams that were down 3-0 that pushed it to a game 6 or 7, and they lost in either game 6 or 7, right? So it's not, it's been close, and it's not something you see every day. But I will say this. If there was a team that could come back from 0-3 and win, I would not be surprised if Boston was that team. I would not be surprised. So the thing I like about either one of those teams possibly matching up with Denver is they have multiple shooters. And I think with the Denver has played against the teams that, they might have one or two players, right? But you don't have multiple players that are going to give you 10 to 15 points a night. And I think the Heat are clicking right now. And Boston has that potential. They just, they get, too much on ISO ball instead of moving the ball. They moved the ball last night, and the stars on their team still got their shots. It spreads your defense thin. You can't help because you're worried about your guy hitting a shot. Name me the guys on the Lakers that they were worried about knocking shots down consistently. Maybe Hachimura. Okay, he had a really good series, and maybe Reeves. Okay, but they weren't like they were handling the ball more. They weren't just like, hey, I'm gonna spot up in these corners. You guys are gonna go to the basket, and if these guys come in and help, we're kicking it out to you for shots, right? Denver has like 4 to 5 guys other than Murray and Joker that can just, all they do is just catch and shoot, those threes. So they keep you spread it out. Phoenix only had really 2, but their 2 they mid-range. They didn't have anybody else that were knocking down shots. And Lord, don't get me started on the Timberwolves. Don't get me started. But you see where I'm going is, it could be a different series, especially under Miami, because Miami have multiple guys that are spreading the court and can shoot. They got, 4? They got Vincent, Lowry can hit, Duncan Robinson, Hero could be back, Vincent and Martin. Those guys are all shooting the ball well. It could pose a different problem because I don't care how good you say you are defensively, when you have to guard the whole entire floor, it makes it harder. Ask the Lakers. Big, physical, best in the league. And Denver was shredding their defense because all of those guys could shoot. They could, get to the basket. But by spreading it out, it made it harder for them to defend. So we'll see. Last thing I want to talk about is there's a notion that, players don't want to be coached. That is a myth. Now, will you have a few players that, hey, they're just, they don't care to be coached? Yeah, absolutely. That's going to happen. Maybe you might have one player on every team, whether it's city, high school, hell, college and pros. There's going to be a player here and there that don't really want to be coached. But I would say 90 to 95% of players want to be coached. And when I say that, I'm talking about from the lowest level to the highest level. Okay? They want to be coached because of the fact that, you hear it often. This player is acting like this player is acting like that. You blowing certain things up, but generally, players want to be coached. They want to be coached well now. Now, I'm not saying by somebody that don't know how to coach. Good coaches, you know how to coach players. Most of the time, players want to be coached. Okay, I'll use it like in the training world with me. Kids who come to training, they want to be trained. Is there an anomaly where a player doesn't, a player is there because they're being forced to be there? Yeah, but that's like maybe 2 to 5% of the kids that we get. I don't even know if it's probably less than 2% of the kids that come in really didn't want to come. They were coming because somebody else was forcing them. But players, the kids that we get, they want to be trained. They want to know how to do stuff. It's the same thing with coaching. There are a lot of players that are coachable. There's this, and I'm not talking about just role players or bench players. I'm talking about elite. Elite players want to be coached. They crave it because it's a part of them being more elite is to have somebody that can push them. Now we all know what type of players, what type of coaches we want. We don't want somebody that's just disparaging, always negative, yells constantly, curses, ridicule. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, look, I'm coaching you. I'm going to always put you in the best position. There are going to be some things that you don't agree with. But trust me, I'm doing it for you. I'm helping you. I'm going to demand more of you. If you're my best player, I'm going to demand more of you because you need to demand more of yourself and your teammates. You create a good culture from the top down, you don't have those problems that other schools and organizations have where players are leaving all the time. You have players that come in and they do what they're supposed to do. Okay, so yeah, players do want to be coached. Let's deal with that. Now, you know what? I want to throw something else in. I didn't have this. I actually had a discussion. I posted something on Facebook about players. It makes me laugh when I see. Not makes me laugh. It just kind of I shake my head when guys who didn't get in the game for a team, whether it's high school, college, and in pros, the excessive celebration as if you were averaging 20, 25 points because your team won. It boggles my mind. And then I got pushback from a friend of mine on Facebook. It was like, hey man, it's a team sport and stuff. And I said, yeah, no, that's not what I meant. I'm not saying that you're not supposed to celebrate. Yeah, of course you're supposed to be happy. But if you're walking around hooting and hollering and you ain't stepped on the court, that's kind of like, man, like, I get it. You helped. You did your part, whatever your part is, you're part of the organization. You should be happy. But there's only a handful of guys on that team that could be hooting and hollering the way you were hooting and hollering. And they were the reasons that they were there. So I don't have a problem with celebrating. Let me make that clear. I just have something to where, like, if you win and you ain't touched the floor, your uniform and your warm-up jersey ain't got no sweat on it. You don't got no sweat on your eyebrow. You got zeros all across the board. Yeah, I want you to be happy, but you can't be like trying to, celebrate all in my face if you won. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And to me, it's on every level. It's on every level, pro, college, high school. Celebrate, enjoy it, but celebrate in a manner in which is respectful, because it kind of came across a little disrespectful to me and to others. I know some others that that are kind of like, yo, man, he looked like he averaging 40 points a game. Let me look at the box scores and see if, oh man, he didn't even touch the floor. What are you celebrating like that for? But to each his own. Some people have their opinion with how they do it, but I just, I would never be okay with that. Never. I just wouldn't. That's just kind of the way I've always been. But that's just me. So that'll be all with that. Let me move on to my basketball training ideology. Okay. All right. So for my basketball training ideology, I'm going to go to a basketball term. Now, last week, I gave the term dig. I actually read the definition. Now, I want to apologize to y'all because in reading the definition, it didn't sound like what a dig was. It was kind of confusing. And what I've had to understand with the basketball terminology is it does sound confusing when you read it. When you just read what it was. Okay, so I'm going to turn around and put it into layman terms for us common folk because, yeah, I'm a trainer. I deal with a lot of basketball stuff, but I don't try to talk like some sophisticated, basketball person with terms and stuff. I'm always trying to explain stuff to where somebody who didn't know, they can understand it, right? So a dig is basically if the ball goes into the post and I'm up on top, and let's say I'm on the wing, when that ball, I'm guarding the wing person, the ball goes down in the post, I will run down to kind of look like I'm going to double, but then I'm going to go back up to my man. Most of the time what I'm trying to do is make that post player pick the ball up and pass it back outside, right? You're not trying to double team. You run, they bounce, and then you kind of run down, and then you run back. There are other terms from it, terms for a dig, but that's the term that's the popular now with coaches. Okay, so I apologize if I sounded like I didn't know what the hell I was talking about last week when I read the basketball term. It wasn't that I didn't understand it. It's just that as I read the definition sounded weird, right? So from here on out, I'm going to say a term, but I'm going to read it the way I know it to be in a way that you guys can understand. And I'm not saying that you guys, didn't understand what a dig was. That's not what I'm saying. But I was just like reading it. And then as I'm reading, I'm thinking to myself, what the hell is this? So, okay. So here's the basketball term for this week. Pin down. Now, pin down can be a pin down screen or a down screen, really. Okay, that's, like I said, you're going to hear different terms, different ways. So what is a pin down? A pin down is a down screen set when the screener comes from the wing or the elbow to go down to the block or corner to allow the player to pop out to get the ball and score. So I'll paint a visual because the pin down can be in different areas, but traditionally, if the player is on the block, and the player is on the wing player will run down and set a screen on the player on the block's defender. This will allow that player to pop out for a catch and shoot, curl for a catch and layup, or maybe come over almost kind of like a curl for a jump shot as well. Okay, you can do the same thing if that player is in the corner, or like along the baseline. You can set that same screen. That screen would generally come from the elbow, from the elbow, and also from the wing. Okay, now obviously there are different ways you can do it. You can come from all over, but generally it's when the screener is coming from higher and goes down and it sets a screen. So I hope that helped. I actually, just took the actual word, that was in one of the terms, and this is basically my definition for it. Okay, you look at their definition, but this is my definition because it makes a little bit more sense to me, and hopefully it made sense to you. So if you weren't understanding, let me know. I'll go over it again. Maybe I can even send you a link for a visual, so because some people really relate to stuff visually. But yeah, that's what the basketball term is today, and I like being able to share this and educate everybody as well as myself, because there are going to be terms and things that, I might have heard, but I've never really thought about what it actually meant. So this is educational for me as well. All right. Okay. So there have been a lot of times that I've actually talked about delving into this, but I'm going to delve into it now. Coaches who have a type. Now, what do I mean? There are coaches in the high school level, in the college level, and in the pros. There are city league coaches and AAU coaches, and they have a type. So what do I mean by having a type? What I mean is there are some coaches that are fixated on a certain type of player where, they might like long athletic players. They might like, certain types of guards that they only like to have on their team, certain types of bigs that they only like to have on their team. Sometimes it's because they fit a system that they like to run, right? So I get that. My thing is, I've always said, and I'll continue to say it, that if you're not winning at a high rate, then maybe your type needs to change, because I feel like it's kind of stubborn and arrogant to have this thought process consistently, right? So let's say you're a coach who doesn't have very many wins, but hey, this is the type of player that I want. This is what type of player. This is what I need. This is how I play my system and everything like that. And to play my system, I have to have this type of player. Well, if you're at the bottom of everything, if you're not being successful, obviously somebody could look in the mirror and say, well, maybe it's your coaching, but maybe that type of player, maybe you should look at thinking outside the box. It's okay to think outside the box. Why is this an issue for me? It's an issue for me because I've seen some kids that I know could play at at the next level, whether it's from middle school to high school or from high school to college, and even from college to pro. But they don't get an opportunity to showcase what they have, because if it's one college that's there or one NBA scout that's there, or that one high school that's there watching these kids play when they're doing their tryouts, they only want a certain type of player. Like their eyes they got blinders on for anything else. Nah, we ain't trying to recruit this type of player. I would rather, if you're going to have a tryout or something, I'd rather you just tell all of those players, like, look, y'all don't fit the type of player that I want, so I'm not going to be wanting you guys to try out. That's very shitty. Very shitty. Right? But okay, I get it. I would at least respect the coach who did that. But if that's your philosophy, that's cool. But if you ain't won, if you're not winning with that formula, you need to look at changing it. You need to look in the mirror and ask yourself, maybe this type, maybe this style, in my head, I think it works, but it doesn't. Maybe I don't have the personnel to run this type of offense or defense. Right? Obviously, if you're a college, you can recruit your players. So you're going to recruit a type. But if you're recruiting a type and you've been there, 3 to 5 years with your type and you haven't been successful, maybe your type needs to change. Because there's some players that can play that don't fit in anybody's system or in anybody's type. They can just flat out play. If you can flat out play, you should be allowed to play. It shouldn't matter that you're not, obviously. Okay, let me back up. If you're a 6'4" post player in high school and you can play, that's not going to translate to playing in a big conference where you're playing against 6'9", 6'10", 7-foot post players. You're going to be at a disadvantage at 6'4". That's not what I'm talking about. If you want a guard that's 6'2", right? He's got to be 6'2". Okay. But you got a guard that's between 5'7", maybe 5'11", but can flat out play. Maybe athletic, very good court vision, can shoot, handles the ball spectacularly. You mean to tell me you're not going to recruit that person because he's not, 3 or 4 inches taller? My high school coach used to tell me that I played like I was 6'1". I'm 5'6". Right? So you can tell if a person can play. Why do you have to have this type where you pigeonhole players that can play? I don't understand it. Coaches, I have a ton of coaches that listen to my podcast. Please educate me on this, and because I know some of them, they have a type, and I get it, but I don't understand it. I don't understand it from a standpoint of if you have somebody staring you in the face that can ball, you should take that baller. Now, college scholarships aren't 4 years. You're told they're 4 years, but you basically re-up every year. So if you get a player in there that can just go, that doesn't fit your type, you get him in there for 1 year. And if he doesn't fit your type, if he's not successful, then you can say, okay, I told you this is why I have a type. But if you're last in the conference, if you never make it to the playoffs, you never get to the championships, if you're not a good team, you have to look at maybe the type. Maybe it's something with that type. Don't be stubborn. Sometimes, I'm sure assistant coaches might have, different thought processes here and now. Look at it with different eyes. Try it. Look at it with different eyes sometimes. Because today's athlete in all sports are so much more in the know, in the aware than what athletes were 15, 20 years ago. Because the abundance of social media, the abundance of training, information that's out there showing you. I show kids stuff that kids say they've never been exposed to. And these are kids that are in high school, going into their senior years sometimes. Elite high school players that I have. They're not exposed to the type of stuff that I expose them to. And they are so grateful because they say, I never even thought that I could do this or look at this in this way. My job is to open eyes. I don't tell a kid, hey, well, I'm not going to show you this because you're probably not going to be able to do it. No, I'm going to show you this. I know what your coach wants from you, but there's going to be an opportunity for you to do this at some point. Just be ready. So when it happens, you know what you can do. You know what you're capable of. So I really hope this helps. Probably not. I mean, I know there's some that are stuck in their ways and it's like, nope, I don't care what he says. I don't care what anybody says. This is how I'm going to coach. I got news for you. You won't be coaching there for long. I mean, in a world where in the NBA, they fired coaches that were coaches of the year the last 3 to 4 years. You had coaches that got fired that Budenholzer from Milwaukee won the championship 2 years ago. His brother died during the playoffs, and they still fired him. He was a coach of the year, I think, at one point. Monty Williams got to the finals 2 years ago. Should have been there again last year. This year he had changes. Coach of the year 1 year. Got fired. Nick Nurse won a title like 3 years ago or something like that. I think it was 19, so it could have been 4 years, right? Somewhere like that. Gets fired. So if they firing people who were winning at a high level and had their teams right there, yeah, y'all better look over your shoulder. Because if you're not winning, it's coming. So I would encourage you, you can have your type. I guess you can have your type. But don't exclude a kid that you know can play just because he or she doesn't fit your type. That's all I'm going to say on that. All right, last thing is a carry. I want to get into a carry just real quickly. Why does a carry happen? I see a lot of carries. I even see carries and some of these trainers when they're training these kids and they're working on these moves. And the reason why a carry happens, because I got asked that once. A carry happens because the person dribbling the ball doesn't know or hasn't worked on the height needed to execute a particular move. So for instance, if you're going to do kind of a hesitation move and you're going to step out with your foot and then, crossover, you have to have the ball up to a height that will allow you to execute that footwork. But so here's what I do when I'm doing a workout. I do high, medium, low dribble. So high, I try to get them to bounce the ball right around their shoulder or above, but I need them to keep their hand on top of the ball. Okay. Medium, the ball is going to bounce like kind of close to your waist, maybe a little bit higher. Okay. Low dribbles, I have them to dribble below their knee. Okay. So if you're going to execute this type of hesitation, step out, crossover move, the dribble can't be low. Because if it's low, you have to now bring the ball up to create that pause. So your hand's going to go under it. So if you got people that are lazy dribblers, which you see a lot of, the lazy dribblers don't dribble the ball with the force and speed that gives them the opportunity to create like a slow pause type motion. Okay, you have to know how to make that bounce. So whenever I'm teaching somebody how to manipulate the ball, how to make the ball appear as if maybe, the nuance of the dribble is off, I teach them to keep their hand on top, and you can slightly go to the side of the ball when you're making this move. But a lot of times I see that kids aren't doing that. They're dribbling below their waist when they should be dribbling almost up towards their shoulder to create that momentum and make that move. So you see carries because they dribble low, but now they're trying to get the ball up. So they take the bounce and then they use their hand to kind of lift the ball up when they're getting ready to cross or when they're getting ready to make a move. So that is why you see a lot of carries. And until people can show kids how to properly manipulate the ball, I actually got a video of it. So if you are into, videos with different stuff, I guess I should plug it. You should look at my Patreon. I've created a video library. I call it Mr. Fix It. And I have, 2 different levels where one level is just basic, basketball stuff. And then I have another level that delves more into how to fix things. So anything that you need to fix, I can fix it. And manipulating the ball is a fix-it video. And I actually detail how you can learn how to manipulate the ball. So when you make a move that looks like, well, how was he able to do that? He or she able to do that? It's more reasonable and it's understandable because of how you manipulate the dribble. It's a lot more simple. It sounds really complicated, but it's really simple when you practice on it. And I learned that as I got up, and which made my ball handling so successful. It made it so successful to where I could manipulate the ball. Of course, there was an occasional person that was, oh man, that's a carry. Yeah, okay, I get it. Sometimes one time I made a move and a referee made a call on me. And I was baffled. And at halftime, I asked the ref, hey, what did I do? And the ref said, I'm sorry. I had never seen anybody do something with a basketball like that before. So I just assumed that you did something wrong. But after you did it and after I made the call, I started thinking about it. And then the other ref said, man, that was just a nasty move. And I said, okay, I appreciate that. I at least, I wish you would have just took it back and said, nope, that wasn't wrong, because I got the defender. Oh my God. Oh Lord. And I think if he hadn't made that call and that, because he almost fell, if he hadn't made that call, he might have been trying to fight me. He might have been trying to fight me like, hey man, the hell wrong with you trying to do something like that on me? But in any case, it was a understanding with how to manipulate the ball. So if you got handles like that, you have to work on that. But yeah, you got to stop having lazy dribblers, because that's a lot. That's mostly what it is. You got people who dribble lazy and they end up carrying. So I hope this was informative for all of y'all. This is going to end. I will be moving on to the bonus content. And the two topics I'm going to cover today is the globalization of basketball and training. Got some thoughts on that. And my basketball training ideology is being comfortable shooting when someone is on you or next to you. Okay, so I really appreciate it. I enjoy this podcast. I hope I don't sound like I don't enjoy it, but I do enjoy doing it, and that's why I'm going to keep doing it. Hell, if I only got one person that listens to my podcast, I'm fine with it. I just enjoy doing it. It's so fun. Now, sometimes I be like, man, I'm going to talk about this, and then I get closer to like, oh, I can't talk about this. So I have a whole catalog of stuff that I have that I'm ready to talk to, but I try to hit current terms and stuff. So I appreciate you for tuning in, for however long you tuned in. If this is the first one that you've listened to, go back and listen to some of the others. And if you're new, welcome. And, hopefully you continue to listen to this. So with all of that being said, I'm going to end this the way I always end. I will say I appreciate y'all, but if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. I'm out.
Street cred sports, say it with your chest. Yeah. Go get it from the net. Street cred sports, okay, that's a bet.